Do the 10 C's of survivability actually help you survive? Welcome back to the channel, everyone. So I want to continue on in that conversation we had about the 5 C's of survival. Now, we often hear about the 10 C's of survival or survivability, but they're really split into 2 different categories of items that come together to form that 10 C's. So you have the 5 C's of survival, which are those first 5 items that we covered in the last video, and the 5 C's of survivability, if I could talk properly. Apologize for that, coming off a 6-day stretch, so a little fried, but we're out here getting after it. The 5 C's of survivability encompass a few different things. Funny enough, the first thing that is talked about is compass. So when it comes to a compass, you have lots of different options. You could get a lensatic, you can get a base plate compass, you can get a button compass, a whole host of compasses out there. But I think it's important to understand that the compass is just one part of that navigation aspect of what the compass is really trying to highlight there. So what I have here is I just have a Magpul DACA pouch. I believe I did a video on this kit already, so we won't dive into the entire thing, but we can see I got a Silva Ranger in here. Now, I've used this one pretty extensively along with the Suntu MC2, so either one of these would be kind of my recommendation. I like the MC2 just a tad bit more than the Silva Ranger, but this still works for me. And the other critical component of this kit, get it out of here, so pulling everything else out, is some sort of map. Now, you want to have both of these because they're going to help you to navigate wherever you may be. Help you triangulate where you're at on the map, so you're not kind of shooting in the wind and hoping that you're right about that terrain feature over there. Now, we'll dive a little bit more into navigation, all the different aspects of that in a future video. But it's important to know, if you're going to set up a survival kit, outdoors kit, whatever you want to call it, and you're using the 10 C's as kind of your starting point or one of your starting points, understand that the compass is going to allow you to navigate, but you also have to understand where you're at. So obviously a paper map, never going to lose power, never going to lose connection to satellites. On our phone, we could use apps like Gaia GPS, Base Map. I think there's like Miltopo if you have iPhone. Unfortunately, I have Android, so I can't use that. But I've used Base Map and Gaia GPS for 3, maybe 4 years now. And I'm really happy with both of those apps. I use both of them because Base Maps allows me to see property lines a little bit easier. So I use both of them in conjunction. Gaia usually just keeps all of my trails, and then I'll hop over to Base Map to see where the property lines are. So I'm not wandering into someone's property, or if I'm in the national forest in the northern part of the state, I'm not wandering from national forest into some sort of private land. But the compass just allows us to walk a straight line. The map allows us to know where we're at. And one of my favorite sayings when I teach the navigation is, if you always know where you're at, you can never be lost. All right, so we talked about compass. Now let's talk about candling device or candlelight or candle. You can see it all over in different names. So in this Kafaru Possible pouch, I just have a night core, and I don't even remember the model of this headlamp, so I apologize for that. But this just gives me multiple brightnesses, gives me red light, all those features. Now a headlamp is really, really important because it allows us to work without our hands being full with like a flashlight or anything like that. We can strap this to our head, work hands-free, use both of our hands, and not be kind of, limited to just one hand at a time. Now, There's loads of different headlamps out there. The one that I've used probably the most extensively is the Black Diamond Storm. I've used that in the dead of winter in the Adirondacks, down in some of the swampy areas of Florida, as well as year-round here in Wisconsin. So I'm really tied to coming always back to the Black Diamond Storm. I've used the Peak Designs headlamp as well. There is another headlamp that's coming out in the next couple of weeks that I'm going to be picking up. It's designed for backpack hunters, so it's really bright, really long battery life, and it's proven to be a little bit promising from the little bit I've seen so far. So when I picked it up, tested it out for a little bit, we'll talk about that one. But a candling device or headlamp, flashlight, anything like that allows us to see when it gets dark outside. If you've ever been in the woods, you know, right at sundown, it gets super dark in the woods really, really quick. To kind of go back to a class story, in my first advanced class when I was with Tony and with my buddy Jeff, you know, last night, you know, we're getting camped off in the woods, and you know, I'm kind of falling behind on some of my deliverables, struggling a little bit, ass hanging out, that sort of thing. My headlamp that I've been using the entire class, go to turn it on, no light. Couldn't figure out, you know, tried switching batteries, just could not get this damn thing to work. Unfortunately, because I had no headlamp, and so I needed that light to continue on in the course. Unfortunately, I had to leave that class. You know, hindsight, looking back, you know, in that sort of scenario, and this is something I've kind of took forward with me from that experience, and then obviously with my other advanced class experience, is, you know, with these survival courses, especially once you start getting to those ones where you're like really testing people, incorporating that team aspect is really, really helpful. Because yeah, we can train to survive on our own, but chances are we're going to be out there with someone else. So looking back to that scenario, I should have been able to work with my partner to troubleshoot that. Hey, can I borrow your headlamp? Work on this. Once I'm done, I'll give it to you. You can knock out your thing, and then back and forth. Or with the other guys that were in that class, you know, maybe work something out where, you know, we all rotate headlamps or something like that. That's something I incorporated in a later class, advanced class, that I ended up designing, that my buddy Jake went through. And I incorporated small little twists in there that were outside of the normal of what an advanced class was at the school. But I wanted to put a little bit different emphasis on things, you know, ways to get a little bit of food or a little hit of candy here that helps boost your morale. So if you're really, really struggling, you able to get that little piece of candy. And that's often underestimated, I believe, that people don't understand how much just like a simple piece of candy can completely change your outlook when you haven't had food in multiple days, working partially dehydrated, been busting your ass. You know, just that small little, you know, hit of sugar, completely game changer for anyone. Enough to kind of rambling off there. Headlamp, have one, carry one, helps you navigate at night if you are, or getting back to your vehicle, or just working hands-free around camp. Or if you have to get up in the middle of the night, you ain't tripping over yourself trying to go to the bathroom. So that brings us to cotton material. Now, this is just a 3 foot by 3 foot bandana I got from Big Ass Bandana. Don't get salty at me about language, that's just what it's called. I'll throw their site down below, but they're based here in Wisconsin, so when I picked up one of these, I wanted to just give them a shout out to have some traffic headed their way. But other things that I've used are a shamagdana. I got that from Jay Hercules at Opossum Goods. Might be getting that a little bit wrong because I always get his name mixed up with Tough Possums. But you'll hop on Instagram, Facebook. You'll find him on there. I like that. I've used that last couple of years. Go to Walmart. You can get 3 foot by 3 foot pieces of cloth for $1, maybe $2 now. And I've used those pretty extensively. I usually just get a white one, just so there's no dyes, as chipmunks or something are having a battle royale in the trees behind me. They're in the trees. Anyway, I've used that extensively. Use that for char material, use it for filtering water, filling up a container, those sorts of things. The other thing is a shemagh. Now, I don't necessarily like using the shemagh so much anymore. I found it just to be a real pain in the ass, just because of how loosely woven that is. It catches on everything in the woods. It picks up every stick, you know, once that hits the ground. It's just a nightmare to deal with because you have loose threads here and there. You know, I personally don't like using that. I like the bandana because of how tightly woven this is. Let me get a corner here so you can see, you know, that's a nice tight weave with that. And it just allows a little bit easier time using it. I'm not trying to pick stuff out of it after every trip I go outdoors, anything like that. Obviously, 100% cotton material is what you want to go with. That allows you to char it effectively. For char cloth, you can use it as a pre-filter when you're filling a container, just so you're not putting a bunch of junk in your filter or your bottle or whatever you're filling. So lots and lots of uses. In a pinch, you could use this as a gauze to stuff a laceration or a wound. You can use this as a sling. I've actually improvised 2 of these with sticks and duct tape for my basic class into a leg splint for my partner. That's just part of an exercise that we're doing. So lots and lots of uses for a piece of cotton. So that brings us to the last 2 C's of survivability. Now, I'm going to talk about them together because what I have in my hands kind of knocks out both of those. But we have a canvas needle and we have cargo tape. Canvas needle, just think of a heavy gauge sewing needle, something that can punch through tough material like leather, stuff like that. Cargo tape, just duct tape, Gorilla tape. Find you some, get you some. What I end up like to carrying, because a lot of people just take duct tape and tape their canvas needle to the back of their sheath. Now, I did that on my Garberg since I bought it like 7 years ago. And I do have a video on the Garberg kind of talking about how I ended up using that. I used that as the only knife through all of my survival training, and that thing is just abused. Still works perfectly to this day. I just don't use it a whole lot anymore just because of how beat up it is. But you could go that route. Strap duct tape to the side of your pack, you know, hang it off there. But what I end up usually coming back to time and time again is this Exotac rip spool. Now, the reason I like this is because it gives me multiple things in one small convenient package. So obviously we can see we have duct tape on here. I always forget the exact amount, but go on their site, you can figure that out. We have some really thin thread. So if we need to repair anything, need to make a fishing line, anything like that, we have some thread or some line to do that. But the other reason I like this is we can unscrew this. And there's actually an O-ring right at the bottom of the base of this. So let me unscrew that. And then we have a needle here. Let me see if I can get my face out here and get that to focus in. Hopefully that's focusing in. But now we just have a heavy gauge needle so we can do repairs. And that's all in one nice little package like this. Now, duct tape, cargo tape, it's not created equally. If you get like that traditional duct tape with the little duck logo on it, that stuff's kind of crap, not gonna lie. Will it work in some applications? Yes. But if you want something that's really gonna stick, like Gorilla brand duct tape, I don't know which kind they use for this, but I just leave this in my pack. I don't even mess with this. I usually carry a spare roll of the smaller Gorilla brand duct tape. There's that T-Rex tape out there. I've never used that, but I've seen people using it, and it seems to work just as good as the Gorilla tape. One thing I've been kind of kicking around in my head that I want to research a little bit is finding a tape that works good when it's colder out, because that's the inherent downside with duct tape, is if it's cold out, wet out, anything like that, it doesn't work the greatest. So if you know of anything that's going to work in some adverse conditions like that, drop me a line down below, let me know what you're using so we can all pick that little tip up and run with it. But I like this little package just because it's convenient. Throw it in my little possibles pouch, my little woodsman's junk drawer, and be done with it. So I didn't want to turn that into a huge rambling video. I'm sure it got pretty lengthy there, but try to hit everything in fairly efficient timing. The other thing with the 10Cs that I wanted to talk about is this isn't really a new concept. You know, it's been around, what, 12, 15 years or so. But if we look back through different texts, different videos that were out there predating 2007, 2008, you know, you have John McCann wrote about 10 categories of items, or different categories of items that we want in our survival kit. If you have never read his books, I highly suggest you track those down. I believe there is Building the Perfect Survival Kit, and then there's Stay Alive. Both solid books, both good of information. It's just like anything, you know, read through it, find some stuff that works for you, kind of makes sense to you, incorporate that in your system, and then if the rest of it doesn't make sense, just don't use it. The other person you should really check out is Ron Hood. Now, I've been diving back into his stuff. I remember seeing it years and years ago, but I recently bought, like last year I bought a big DVD set of his Woodsmaster series. So I started making my way through that, just kind of seeing what, you know, interesting tips I can pick up, different techniques, stuff like that. But Ron Hood is an OG of the survival and bushcraft industry community. Dude was doing this stuff back in the 90s until he unfortunately passed away in 2011. So check out his stuff and you'll see a lot of the same concepts carried forward in the 10Cs. So just kind of my opinion with the 10Cs, it's just, it already took fundamental knowledge that was already put in place by other people and just put a spin on it that made it a little bit easier to understand, maybe remember. Gives you a little starting list to go off of when building a kit. So, but check out them. They laid a lot of the groundwork. Same with the likes of Morris Kahansky, what the hell is his name? Larry Olson. Man, there's tons and tons of books out there, and my survival library is continually growing. You know, I bought all of your, you know, Bushcraft 101, Bushcraft, all these different books. And now I'm getting deeper and deeper and building a much more extensive library. So I have all of those different texts that I can refer to. You know, hey, I want to learn a little bit more about this. Let me go pull a couple books off the shelf, kind of look and see what they talk about on the topic. So go back, because we can always learn a lot more from history than we can from anything that's going on right now. Do me a favor, down in the comment section down below, let me know what some of the essentials in your pack are. Do you follow the 10Cs to the T, or do you deviate? Personally, I deviate a lot from it. I use a couple of different lists and kind of come up with my own, which I have done a video on. But do me a favor as well and hit like, share, and subscribe. That gets more eyes on the community that we're building here, helps bring people into our community so we can grow our knowledge base and learn together and grow together. As always, this has been Paul with Adaptable Survival. Adapt your mind, your body, and your gear.